sitting here now with Victor Salvo of the Legacy Project in Chicago. Victor, how did you become an LGBT activist?
I really began my activism work in the late 1980s. It was kind of the dawn of the AIDS era, and I became really motivated by the idea that we were battling a plague and basically society was rooting for the plague. So I got involved in electoral politics and activism, worked with ACT UP and a couple of different groups, and went through basically a long education process for someone like myself that really kind of crested at the National March on Washington in 1987 when all these various forces came together, including piquing my own personal interest in history. My background is actually architecture and engineering, but I've always had an interest in history, and the dawn of the era where we began to talk about National Coming Out Day in the United States, when we're expected to embrace our own history, it began to occur to me that we didn't know what that history was, and because of what was happening to us through AIDS, I became convinced that if more people knew how many famous people in history had been LGBT, maybe they wouldn't hate us so much and wouldn't be leaving us to die. So that was kind of the birth of where I thought history could play a really important role.
Wonderful. So what is this Legacy Project all about, and how did it develop?
The Legacy Project was actually born. The idea was born at the March on Washington in 1987, and it was decided that we needed to figure out a way to educate ourselves about LGBT contributions to world history and culture, because it was something we never envisioned could ever be taught about in school. It became fairly apparent early on it needed to be outdoors so that it was publicly accessible in a way that didn't require a young person to go to a library and ask for a title they would be too embarrassed to check out. So that was the catalyst for it. It took 25 years for it to finally come to fruition, but in 2012 we actually dedicated the first 18 plaques on the Legacy Walk, which is now a half-mile long installation, currently consisting of 37 bronze memorial markers celebrating the contributions LGBT people have made to world history and culture. And it serves as kind of an outdoor classroom. We work with bullied youth, whom we bring here to give them examples of people like themselves in history, because they still grow up without ever learning anything valuable and kind and positive about people like themselves, and in a day-to-day existence where they're bombarded with negative messaging all the time, both within their schools as well as within society itself. So the walk serves a very important purpose for youth as well as for adults, who of course have no idea that this history has been under their nose the entire time, but I think it's a really important project and we're very proud of it.
So how do you choose the heroes and heroines for this project?
We actually have an international committee which goes through our database every couple of years. We put out a ballot. There's about 30 folks from all over the world who represent a variety of different fields of contribution and different places within the demography of the community. And those individuals vote on who, based upon their field of contribution, is sort of ready to come to the surface, and then that balloting is distilled down to kind of arrive around a list of 30 to 36 people who then become candidates for induction. And then starts the hard part. That's when we have to start sitting down and really thinking. Our committee bounces back and forth about who we know or what businesses we know that may have an interest in this type of individual. And we begin a variety of conversations. At any point in time, there's probably 7 different people that are under discussion, because it can take upwards to 3 years to actually identify the sponsor and to raise the money to do it. But it's a very slow and painstaking process, but we love the fact that it's an installation that was built by the community. It's individual donations, it's companies, it's private organizations, it's groups of friends. This is almost like a community garden in a way. A variety of different people have come together to build a memorial to contributions that people like themselves have made to world history and culture, and it's the only place of its kind on earth. We're very proud of it.
Great project, Victor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.